welcome to Get Fruitful Conversations. I'm your host, Anwen Cooper, and if you're interested in growing a passion-fueled, purpose-driven enterprise and believe that business can be a force for greater good, then this is the podcast for you. Each episode, I'll be talking with inspiring entrepreneurs and inviting them to share how they're pioneering new ways of working to create more prosperity and positive impact for people and the planet. We'll be bringing you fresh insight and practical actions to generate more income and impact through your own business. Our purpose is to give you new perspectives on how to align your vision to a bigger mission in a way that fulfills your personal potential while also generating a longer lasting legacy and more value for all. So thanks for tuning in. I'm delighted you're here to listen. Now let's get fruitful with today's conversation. So, my guest today is James Gardner, Managing Director at Sinclair and Rush UK. He is a leader of this global manufacturing business and is someone who's passionate about building great teams, investing in growing businesses, always improving safety in the workplace and making the health and well-being of his people the top priority. So I'm really delighted to have James here today. Welcome, James.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's lovely to be here.
So this conversation is always themed around business as a force for good. And I just wanted to start off with that as our first question and invite you to share, what does business as a force for good mean for you and your business?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, it always comes back to the people. So for example, we don't have staff or employees. We call everyone team members because we're part of a team, whether that's an individual team or as part of the bigger team. And just that terminology and those wording helps to set people in the right area, I think, in their brain as to what they're thinking about. And it doesn't matter whether you're running a manufacturing company or a restaurant or a gift shop, whatever it might be, you've got people there, and those people are really what makes your company. So that for me is always the most important thing, is around your people, your team members.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had the privilege of coming to visit your premises in the past when we were, able to get out and about a bit more and have group meetings. And it was really interesting to come around and actually meet some of your people and hear a bit more about how things work kind of on the ground. Really loved the way that you talked about encouraging people to sort of develop themselves and to create their dream lives and to use their jobs as a kind of vehicle to create their ideal life, really. So I'm really interested to hear you talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, no, we took an unusual step. It was guided by our CEO, president of the company in America, actually. He read a book called The Dream Manager, and he passed it on to us to read because he thought we would like it. And we did. We fell in love with it. And then what we actually did was change the title of our HR manager, and we made her Human Relations rather than Human Resources. So her title is Human Relations and Dream Manager. And she will sit down with people.
Isn't that a great job title? I just love that as a job title.
Yeah, no, it's good. And again, it just captures people's imaginations and minds and makes them, I guess, think differently, think bigger as well, which is what it's all about. So she'll sit down with people and she'll go through them. This is from anybody, any team member that we've got that wants to be a part of that Dream Manager program. And she'll work out where they currently are in their lives. She'll dissect different areas of everyone's lives, whether it's family or, finances and career and different things that we all are made up of those different things. She'll ask them to assess themselves as to how happy they are in those different areas. And then from that, we get a picture of where there's some strengths and some weaknesses, and we can approach those different areas in a different way. The next stage of that is the dreams, and it's about how to help people set their own dreams so that they can have physically written down dreams of different areas so that they can think about where they want to be in the future. We try and set short-term, medium-term and long-term dreams for people to be able to work on throughout the rest of their careers and lives as well, and encourage others to be able to do that. And what the wonderful thing is doing it as part of an organization and a company, we're able to pull resources in from other people. So for example, one person's dream might be to be able to swim. and another person in our organization may be a fantastic swimming person or a coach or what have you, and that may be something that they can do. Another person's dream might be to drive in an old classic car or something like that, and we may then know somebody that's connected to somebody else who's got an old classic car and would be very happy to take them out in that. And they're live examples that I've given you there, just a couple off the top of my head that I could think of to be able to help people achieve their dreams. And that sort of is a kind of a byproduct of working with us and for us as well, that they get to do that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Sounds great. So I'm really interested to hear now a little bit more about your business journey. I know that you studied business studies at college and have gone on to do diploma in strategic management and leadership, and you also did a degree in business economics. And you've been with your current company for a few years now, but you've obviously had a bit of a journey to get to the position that you're in now, where you're kind of at the top of the team. So can you just tell us a little bit about how you came to be doing what you do now?
Yeah.
What sort of lessons have you learned along the way?
Gosh, yes. Yeah, I'll try and keep it short and sweet, but no, you're right. I always wanted to be in business. I knew that. I think my mum sort of drilled that into me. Both my mum and dad are wonderful parents to me, still alive and still very much heavily involved in our lives. And mum was a businesswoman, and actually one of the first really of her time and sort of first managers in the council that she worked for. So I learned a lot from her. And dad was very physical, hands-on. He was an engineer and a welder, and mum saw how hard that was, physically hard work for him. And I think she wanted to steer me down a different path of working in an office rather than working in a sort of engineering type environment. I was able to do both, which was wonderful as well. So I got a bit of experience in both, but my heart really was in business. So I'd always wanted to be in business. Didn't quite know what business at an early age. So I studied business studies at school, and then went on to West Kent College in Tunbridge to do business studies there at a GNVQ level, and then went on to Hertfordshire University, like you said, to do business economics. And I've just got a passion for learning and especially leadership as well. And that sort of carried on really throughout my whole career. So after leaving university, I worked for a small family business for a while, and then realized that I wouldn't be able to progress much in that business unless somebody had sort of retired or moved on or worse. So I quickly wanted to go and conquer the world, and I went up to London. I worked for HSBC Bank for a year in one of their large distribution centres in Southwark, over 200 people in there, and it was a fantastic experience. I left there and went to work for Connex South Eastern, the train company at the time, in their HR department.
Gosh, I remember that.
So back in the day, and I remember moving from job to job. I was on exactly the same pay, but I got a free train pass for working for the train company.
Good, yeah.
So that felt like a big rise at the time when I was in my early 20s. And then from there, I can still remember the day my brother was working for Sinclair and Rush. And he was a sales guy for them. And he saw a niche in the market for small to medium volumes. Sinclair and Rush predominantly has always historically been a large volume manufacturer. So their minimum quantities would have been 5,000 pieces of a protective cap or something like that for industry. But he'd have people on the phone every day saying, I only need 1,000. Can I just buy 1,000? So a long story cut short, with the blessing of Sinclair and Rush at the time, just over 20 years ago, we set up a company called Component Force, and we would buy from Sinclair and Rush in those large volumes and then break them down and sell them off in smaller volumes to people that wanted small to medium volumes. Fast forwarding over a 10-year period, we grew that company from nothing. It was a startup, and I left my job at Connex to go and work there full time. And we grew that company. We then set up in America because we saw a need over in America for what we were doing. And we grew that business over there again from nothing. That was Component Force USA. And we started there in my wife's aunt's spare room. And I was traveling back and forth. I think I did 13 trips in 1 year to America. And a trip to China in the middle of that as well. So my time zones and body clock was all out of sync, but wonderful experience, a lovely group of people that we had over in the States as well by the time that we then eventually sold Component Force back to Sinclair and Rush. So it really did go full circle. We were able to keep all of our team members, both in the US and in the UK, on board as part of the deal. That was really important to us. It was not along with what we wanted for the company, but that was really, we weren't negotiable on that. So everyone had to be able to be offered the job, which they were. And a lot of them have stayed on still to this day, which is fantastic. And we also stayed on as well. So my brother retired a few years ago at the grand age of 52. And I then took over as MD of Sinclair and Rush, and I've been doing that now for the last 2-3 years. So it's been fascinating and interesting. You said at the beginning of that little section there that, now I've got to the top of the team, whereas actually I like the inverted pyramid style, where actually I think I'm at the bottom of the pyramid, and that I'm working for everybody else as much as I can. And actually the people on the front line, our operators, our dispatch team that's sending the goods out there, the guys and girls on the phones, with sales and customer service and purchasing and accounts, everyone is just so vitally important, that actually I'm the least important person in that whole chain of things. So put me at the bottom and I'll work for everybody else.
Yeah, really interesting way of seeing it. Thank you for sharing that. So what would you say have been your main learnings along the way as you've been progressing through all of those different roles?
There's literally been thousands, but one thing that just that came to mind was the ability to deal with change and adapt to change quickly. So I remember setting up in the States, we were trying to recruit some salespeople, and we wanted 2 salespeople to join the team. So I'd done some telephone interviews here from the UK, set up some face-to-face interviews in our offices in America, flew out there for a week to do those interviews, was flying back for a week because I had a wedding, and then flying back over for 2 weeks to train up the new recruits. And one of the guys was fantastic. He was worked in our industry, really professional, and was our top choice of people to take on board. We offered him the position, he accepted it, everything was fine. And then I remember getting closer to that week of him starting, and he wasn't returning my emails, he wasn't returning my calls. And I literally flew over not knowing whether he'd turn up or not. And on the Sunday night, I'm in the office trying to call him again for one last time. And he answered and said, "I'm really sorry, I can't come over. I've got a non-compete in my contract, which I didn't realize, and I can't come over." And I was there Monday morning, was being, the start of the 2 weeks training that I was supposed to be doing with these 2 new guys. So I phoned up the third choice person that I had, because we'd interviewed quite a few people, and he was able to start on that Monday morning. But it was just a realization from, oh my goodness, we've got over here investing this time and energy in these new people, and my first choice person isn't even going to start. So that ability to change and adapt and overcome, which I know is kind of a military style thing, but it's so important in business as well. And then alongside that, I think what I've learned actually in my latter years in sort of leadership and starting to mature a bit more, is that you need other people around you. You need that team of people around you to be able to add their thoughts and ideas, because you by yourself have only got one brain and one thought track, whereas other people will show you something different, tell you something different. And that's really, really important to be able to grow a bigger, better team and company than just with you doing it by yourself.
Yeah, so true, so true. And obviously this last year or so has seen a lot of change in the business world and just in the world at large. How have you been adapting during this time?
Yeah, it's been very challenging for everybody, and we've all had to deal with it as kind of a first time round. There's no books being written on this, in our lifetime, that's for sure. And I think it was 1918 was the Spanish flu pandemic, which was sort of the biggest thing that anybody kind of in history can compare to, and none of us were here then. So it's been a year of firsts, really, making decisions that are going to affect people, potentially their lives, in the early days and unvaccinated days and things like that, as well as the company and how we run that as well. So March the 16th, when Boris gave us the order that anybody that can work from home should work from home, we literally sent all the office workers working from home. Now, prior to that, we'd had one lady part-time in our accounts department that worked 2 or 3 days a week from home. And the 20 plus other people that were in the offices had never worked from home. So we just set up an infrastructure with our telephone system that it was VoIP, so we could be able to make calls over the computer system a few months before that. So it was a wonderful decision by my accounts manager, Louise, to be able to put that into place. And we had a guy in the canteen setting up people's computers to be able to work remotely. And one by one, they queued up and set up their computers to go home, took their stuff. And, it's hard to think back now, but if you remember on that March the 16th, we didn't know how long that was going to be for.
No.
We didn't know that it was, we thought it might be a few weeks or months, maximum. We were still planning Christmas meals and different things like that, last year, which never happened. So it was that uncertainty that we were dealing with. And what we wanted to do is just try and communicate with people as much as possible and try and keep things as normal as possible. So I remember at Easter time, everybody gets an Easter egg from the company. So I remember that I wanted to keep that the same. So we have manufacturing on site as well, 24 hours a day, 3 different shift patterns. And we, those guys and girls stayed on and carried on coming in. So they were the ones that were really in the uncertain areas of not knowing what was going on. And then the ones at home as well, some didn't gel well with it, others did. And now I think over this year and a half that we've had of it, people have got used to it now. But what we did is we delivered Easter eggs to everybody at home, in that first period there. And then when we got webcams for people that didn't have them, I went back out around and we delivered those to people as well, along with stationery and, all safely from over 2 meter distance on the doorstep. But it was just things like that we did to be able to communicate with people. And then different team leaders that we've got, they would hold virtual coffee mornings with their teams, and they would, just have a lunch where they would, just be on Teams or Zoom and have lunch with each other, because that's typically what they would have done in the office. And it's been wonderful how people have been, imaginative and innovative in terms of how they can keep that communication up and also keep the spirits up as well, because that's been really hard.
Yeah, so important, as you say, to keep a sense of normality as much as possible. Keep doing those small touches that you do day to day.
What things
communication going?
Yeah, what things have you done, or have you heard of other people that you work with, in that time that sort of stuck out in your memory?
That's an interesting question. It's not really something we've talked about in these conversations, actually. Really, you're the first person that I've asked that question to. Obviously, I've seen some examples sort of around me, but yeah, it's not really something I've discussed particularly. But one thing that comes to mind that I did, I was meant to be hosting an in-person meeting, a sort of a day-long meeting with a lunch in the middle. Obviously, that then got moved to Zoom. So I decided that I would send lunches out to people by special delivery.
Excellent.
Just to kind of create a sense of excitement, I think. Because there was just a period when I personally got so bored of eating the same food day in, day out, having sandwiches for lunch that I've made myself. I was just missing that variety of eating something a little bit different. And I just thought, okay, this might be a nice touch to send some lunch out for people. It's sort of, something fun to sort of mix up the day-to-day routine, and also just to have one less thing to do as well. It was a very busy time for me, and obviously lots of other people who were homeschooling or who had other kind of caring commitments, and doing all of that alongside your normal business or job. So I just thought, okay, if I can send people a packed lunch, that's one less thing for them to have to go and prepare their lunch today.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
That was kind of a nice little touch. I think people appreciated.
I bet.
But yeah, lots of much more exciting examples, I'm sure, that are out there. That's just something that comes to mind.
But it's those things, again, we've all had, hundreds of Zoom meetings over this past 18 months or so. And, it's been mentioned a few times on meetings that I've had, but nobody's ever delivered it to me. So that would definitely stand out in people's memories, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so. It's just creating those little moments, I think, to lift people's spirits.
Yeah.
And I think also just creating a sense of shared experience as well. I think when you're on your own at home, in your own little world, you can feel isolated, and it's like it's just you on your own, even if you are talking to people on Zoom a lot. So I think there's something about food, isn't there, when you all eat together and you're all having the same thing, that it brings people together.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we're a great one for that. And typically we would have done, some fish and chips, to celebrate things, or, Christmas meals are always a really important time for us.
Occasion.
So we're hoping that maybe this December we can have a Christmas meal. It's booked, and we're just waiting to see whether we're allowed to.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's hope so. Fingers crossed. So I want to ask you now about your inspiration in business. What inspires you what inspired you to start the components business that you started and then sort of originally then sold on, and what sort of inspires you day to day to keep going and gets you out of bed in the morning?
Yeah, so my brother, my brother Paul, who we started that together, he's been a massive inspiration to me, as my other brother Pete has as well. They've both being that bit older, they're kind of like having a second set of parents almost as well. And my grandparents as well, they worked after the war in a market garden that they'd set up with the help of the government at the time to try and get businesses re-established. So my childhood summer holidays especially were wonderful memories of going over there, helping them in their market garden, small market garden centre, picking strawberries and eating some whilst you're picking them, and helping customers with their orders and taking, bedding plants back to their cars and different things like that. And you don't know as a young kid what you're experiencing and learning there, but you're learning that the hard work pays off. You're learning that actually, my granddad used to have this phrase that if you didn't have a bead of sweat on the end of your nose, you probably weren't working hard enough. And he was just such a wonderful man, as was my nan as well. And so their inspiration on us and me, especially growing up, was that treat your customers, your clients, your people that are paying your wages, really. And again, it was never explained in that way, but treat those with respect. People were coming back like friends to them, a year after year, and it was wonderful to be able to see that. And so that's really stuck with me. And then now even more in this position that I'm in, which is, a very fortunate position to be in, it's helping other people as part of my team to grow and develop, whatever level they're starting from. Everybody's important. And actually what has been a wonderful thing about COVID, if you can say that, is that the cleaners of the world, the bin men of the world, the people in supermarkets and things like that, they're the ones that have been our key workers, along with the wonderful nurses and doctors in the NHS and everything else. But those people that before may have been looked down upon by others now have really come through to actually, you're vital to running a company, absolutely key. And I could come and go and people wouldn't notice too much, but if you don't have the cleaner there cleaning up, especially during the difficult times of COVID being spread around, then it has such a knock-on effect. So to help others with their dreams, with their goals, that's now really what excites me and keeps me going and trying to help people do that. It keeps me on top of my game as well, keeps me pushing to try and better myself, keep learning. I'm a great reader. I believe that all leaders are readers. So I love reading and being part of your book club in the past as well, which has been fantastic to try new books that other people recommend. And I love listening to audiobooks. So I never listen to anything in the car apart from that, unless the girls are in the car with me and then they have some music on. But I've turned my car into a classroom, and again, listening to a wide range of books on different subjects from different people, along with podcasting and different things as well. So yeah, lots of inspiration there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So you've spoken a lot today about people. I know that that's, a real focus for you. But just thinking about the triple bottom line of people, profit and planet, and obviously the fact that you are running a plastics business means that, the environment must be, in your mind as well, and thinking about how you're producing your components in a sustainable way and so running the business in a way that minimizes negative impact on the environment as much as possible. I just wanted to invite you to share a little bit about what you're doing towards that side of things as well.
Yeah, no, it's a great question and one that we get asked a lot. And it's interesting, the David Attenborough Blue Planet documentary was fantastic and really brought to light the effect that plastics typically is having on our planet, and in a negative way. And what the last 18 months has done is almost turn that in another way, where we've had to use disposables and different items as well. But what we have done as a company worldwide, because Sinclair Rush is a global company with headquarters in America, but also operations in China and Australia, as well as here in the UK, we have been constantly looking at ways to improve our manufacturing processes. So some of our processes, we are recycling 99% of what we would produce as waste in-house. Wow. And then that goes back into the process, so that we are leaving a small amount of problems for the world to deal with as possible. We encourage our customers, our clients, to be able to utilize as efficiently as possible the products that they use. And we are looking at, we have an eco warrior person within our company as well that's looking at ways of how we can be more sustainable within our own business, LED lighting obviously throughout, and different things that we're looking at, insulation, everything else. Now, the fascinating thing with that is not only does it have a huge benefit to the planet, and I've got 2 young girls, so I definitely want them and their children in time to, enjoy the planet that we've enjoyed. But it also has an effect on one of those other P's, on the profit line as well, because we automatically become more profitable by doing those processes. And it's something I love the innovation that comes out of it, and what people have come up with in especially in our world of plastics, of what they can turn even a waste product in another area into now an alternative for plastics. Has been just fantastic to see people utilize their brains and their skills to be able to do that. So we're always looking out for new ways of doing that, and we've piloted some first line trials as well in our factory in the UK, where actually the Americans flew over to us to do the trials, which was really exciting as well. So we're always looking to be better and to improve the environment as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So I want to ask you, before we go, I had to share your contact details and things like that, but as a final question to wrap up, would you like to share a top tip or some words of wisdom for anyone who is either starting up in business or already running a business and thinking about how their business can be a greater force for good? What would you like to say to them?
So the thing I would say is you've got to write it down, set it as a goal, and have it there written down in front of you, so you know what you're aiming for, and other people around you, if you have a team as well, know what you're all aiming for together. And if you have a team, then collaborate on that goal. So that's not just your goal necessarily, get input from other people as well. And if it's goals that are along the way of certain revenues or sizes or impact that you want to have on the world or on people, then make those multiple goals and have dates by them. If they don't have dates by them, they're just a dream. So you've got to have a date by your goals so that you know what you're aiming for, and other people know what you're aiming for as well, so you're accountable. And the last bit to that is dream bigger than you've ever dreamt before. We always underestimate what we can do in a lifetime and try and overestimate what we can do in a short time. So set your goals up so that they are big, but they will take a little bit of time to get there. Learn patience, and time will pass anyway, but you will actually get to where you want to get to, as long as that's written down, and your goals will act as a magnet to pull you towards them. Brilliant. Thank you. Some really, big kind of galvanizing, motivating tips there. Thank you. So before we go, please share, how can people get in touch with you or find out more about you and your business? Yeah, absolutely. So LinkedIn is a great way, as we're live streaming on there. So you can find me under James Gardner, Gardner, on LinkedIn, or look up the Sinclair and Rush website online. You'll be able to find us there, the UK one, and the contact us page there. You'll be able to find my details there as well. Also on Facebook, I have a separate Facebook group called Amazing Leaders, a real passion of mine. So you'll be able to find me if you search under Facebook groups for Amazing Leaders. Brilliant. And you also have a podcast of the same name. So if people search for that, they can find that as well. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, Amazing Leaders on iTunes and Spotify and anywhere else you download your podcasts. Brilliant. Well, thanks again, James. It's been really great to talk to you today, and really enjoyed having you on as my guest. Thanks for listening in to today's Get Fruitful conversation. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, I invite you to give us a 5-star rating, leave a review, subscribe to the podcast, and tell your friends and colleagues to check it out too. This will help us reach a wider audience and make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. If you'd like to get in touch, connect with other like-minded people in business, and continue conversations about topics discussed here, then I'd love you to come and find our community online. It's free to join us. Just search for the Get Fruitful Business for Good group over on Facebook, visit my website, getfruitfulmarketing.com, or click the links in the show notes. I'd love to hear what business for good means for you. Until next time, goodbye for now.